Hi, let's learn Minuet 1. This was originally from a keyboard work that Bach had written, and it was in G minor. It was a suite. This particular movement was one of 3 minuets, and it was in G major, and so it's in its original key. 1, 2, 3. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do, and what we should have been doing from before we actually perform or learn Minuet 1, is look at some of the tricky bits so that they're not going to hold us back when we learn the actual piece. And there are 3 tricky bits for me. The first tricky bit is in bar 5 and 6, and it's in the scale that comes down here. So I'm going to start from the open A in bar 5, and I'm going to just do Piccadilly Circus. The next note is 3 on the D, and I only put the 3 down on the D on the stripe. Then I roll the bow over. Now I leave the 3 down as an anchor, and I put the 4 on the A string a step away. Then I roll the bow back to the A and play that. Then I put 1 down on the A with low 2, so 2 is right beside the 1. Ready, go. So those little notes there, that's what I'm going to work on. I'm going to play that just once more. So open A, ready, go. 3 D, go. 4 on A, move, go. 1 and low 2, go. The difficulty with this little bit is making sure that the shape of the hand is correct, like this, with the knuckles more parallel to the neck. If you've got your hand in this sort of shape or weird shapes, then it makes it very, very difficult. And I'll show you from this angle. So here we go, open A. You can see that my 3 is over the D string, it just goes straight down, roll over. 4 on the A, move over, 1 and 2. And you can see that I'm beginning to free up this side point of contact of the first finger to give myself the chance just to rotate round. So I'm actually looking at my pinky edge. My nose is in front of that pinky edge. Right, once I can do it with Piccadilly Circus, I'm going to do it with 2 bows. So I'm going to go like this. T, T, ready, go. 3 on the D, roll over, go. 4 on the A, roll over, go. 1 and low 2 together, go. Okay, let's try that with only one beat rest in between. So ready, go. Rest, rest, rest. So when that starts to become confident, then we move to just one note on each, one bow on each note. Ready, go. A, 3, 4, 1, 2. Again, ready, go. A, 3D, 4A, 1 and 2. And then that builds in confidence so that we can reduce the thinking space in between. I'm always doing fingers, bow, go though. So that's the first tricky bit. The next tricky bit for me is in bars 16 and 17, and it's where the music goes. And the reason why I think this is a tricky bit is because it uses what we call buttoning, or the lifting of the second finger before I play the next phrase. So I've got to have independence and control over my fingers. So I can just show this to you. So I've got high 2 with 1 down as well. Now as I'm playing this 3, I then lift the 2, play the 3 again, and the low 2 goes right beside 1. So your second finger is moving from a high 2 to a low 2. I'll just try that once more in context. So high 2 with 1 on the A, go. Open, 2. Mr. 3. Then I lift the 2. And then the other tricky bit is on bars 18 and 19. And we've done this before in Song of the Wind, where we had the idea of leaving one finger on one string and then playing another finger on another string. That's actually the first tricky bit, had that idea as well in it. And this is a really important concept that we're developing, is that we can use fingers across strings as well as up and down on strings to support what we're doing, but also to help with intonation and things like that. So for instance, in the first tricky bit, when I have 3 on the D string, although I'm playing a 4 on the A string, I know it's a step away, so I can get my intonation and base it on that 3. In effect, I'm actually playing a major 6 as an interval. And I'm beginning to learn about double stops here. Well, let's go back to that the tricky bit that I've been talking about in bar 18. I'm playing 1 on the A string, open, 1, and then 3 going down on the D. So in this instance, I've kept the 1 on the A string and only put 3 over on the D string. And the reason for doing that is because the next note is a low 2 on the A. So I've left my 1 down as the anchor or the support or the pole that tells me where to put that 2. So I can put the 2 beside the 1 and lift off that 3. And then I know it's going to be in tune. If I lift the 1 off, now I've got to find out, oh, where does this 2 go? And it takes a bit of time to work it all out. So this is a quicker way of playing and a more accurate way of playing. So we have 1 on the A, keep the 1 down, put the 3 over on the D, then play low 2 on the A. And again, what I would do is Piccadilly Circus. So open A, 1, 3 on the D, lift the 3, put the low 2 on the A, then 2 bows, A, 1, 3, low 2, then 1 bow. And when that's nice and confident, then I know that I've gone through most of the tricky bits in this piece. Now, I'm going to introduce a way of working when we're learning a piece. This is 24 bars long, this piece. It's quite long. and it goes through different modulations and keys, so it's a complex, quite complex piece. So what I look at first of all is what can I play? What could I play immediately? Now I know that some people don't like to introduce reading into music, but I like students to actually have a look at the part, even if they're not playing with the music. Just have a look at the notes and see what they look like. The calligraphy of a part is very important. It tells us an awful lot. In the instance of this Minuet 1, you can actually look at the original manuscript, and it's quite interesting to see how they wrote. You can see from the colour of the ink actually what was important. You can see that putting the dots on the notes is the first thing that they do, because you can see how the ink turns a different colour as it runs out on the quill. But you can also see that Bach was a calligrapher, because his music is meticulous. It's beautifully laid out. So when I'm looking at this music, I can see that there are some notes which I could play immediately. Notes which last for 3 beats, for instance, single notes in a bar. So if I take bar number 20, that's an open A for 3 counts. 2, 3. Now, all the way through it, the ends of most of these phrases finish with a 3-count note. I've got to physically feel that 3-count note. So what I'm going to do is with my feet, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Or I can say ta, ah. So then the last note of the piece is 3 on the D string. Ta, ah. If I look at bar 16, it's a 3 on the A. Ta, ah. And if I look at bar number 8, it's 3 on the D. Ta, Now, immediately, I know I can play 4 bars in this piece without much trouble. So that means that a 24 bar piece has suddenly become a 20 bar piece, which is a nice thing to realize. The next thing that I would do is look at the rhythmic cells in the piece, because some of them I think are quite straightforward and I could probably play them quite quickly. So for instance, there is a rhythmic cell here, which I talked about at the start, which goes ta, ti, ti, ta. And so if I just play that on the A string first of all, so I pull on the first beat of the bar, which has a slight strength to it, and then 2 TT notes, and then a light up bow. So slightly heavier, TT, light up bow. And the interesting thing that we're developing here as well is that down bow was on a stronger sounding note, but the last beat of the bar is an up bow, and it's a different sound altogether. We always use these words down bow and up bow, but I prefer to use the pull push idea, or breathing out, breathe in. So we can hear 2 different sound qualities from the direction of the bow. And although you might be teaching a very young child, they can understand the concepts of breathing. So try and start this process of sowing a seed of thought in their mind that a bow doesn't just go down and up, it actually breathes. So we have this breathe out, breathe in. It's a little bit like a basketball. You push it down and then you allow it to come up, or a yo-yo. Push and then release on the up. So this particular one that I'm going to look at is in bar number 9, I think, or 10, bar 10. And it's going to go 2, 1, 2, open. Ready on the A, go. And it's a piece full of grace and elegance. So those 2 TT notes, I want them to have a little gap between each one and have a little shape to them. So we'll have ta, ti, ti, ta. So that's one of those rhythmic motifs, but that happens a multitude of times. And when I'm looking at it, I'm first going to do the ones where they're all on the same string. So bar 17 is all on the same string. I put 1 and 3 down, and I go 3, 2, 1, open. So 3, 2, 1, open. And then I might look at the second last bar, so that's 23, and that's on the D string, and it says, now diddle on, ready, go. And that happens again in bar number 7, so I won't do it again. And then I can look at the ones which have a string crossing. Now, with string crossing, I like to just do open strings. So bar 2 goes like this with just the bow. What does the bow do? It does this. So A, D. And now I'll put the fingers into that. So 1, open, 1, 3. With that same idea of just the 3 going over to the D string, not putting my whole hand over, and the 1 stays down on the A string. So 1, keep the 1 down, 3 goes over. So we've gone through those rhythmic motifs, and I think there's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. So if we're on to bar 20 now that we know we can play, and we take 6 away, we only have 14 bars to learn in this piece. And then I can look at it and maybe I can see a pattern. So for instance, in bar number 12 and bar number 11, so 11 and 12, we have a little hill that goes up and then comes down. And it sounds like this: 3 on the A, then down. So that's a less complex concept bar to think about. It's just a hill that goes up and a hill that comes down in steps. So I can practice that, and that's another 2 bars ticked off the difficult bars. And so I can proceed through the whole of this piece looking at bars which I think are very playable, and I can find that actually this isn't such a difficult piece to learn after all. Then the next aspect of it is to try and think about, well, how am I going to memorize a piece that's 24 bars long? It's quite tricky to do that. And there are a load of ways of doing it. Recognizing features in a piece of music is one of those ways of doing it. So if I look at the very beginning of the piece, I have a particular bowing that I can recognize, a bowing that goes down, up, up. And it has a slightly deeper, heavier beginning, so the first beat of the bar is a bit stronger, and then there's a lightness to the 2 up bows. Now, it's at this point that I would start looking at the context of this piece. So, what is it? It's a dance. How many beats are there in a bar? 3 beats in a bar. It's a dance in 3 beats that is elegant and charming. So I would actually try dancing an elegant dance in 3 times. So my first step will be large and then little, little, large, little, little. I said to you that maybe you should look at the original, and I think you should, because although it's written for a keyboard, there's no stop slurs or anything written on it. It's separate bows. And so if we did that on the violin, it's quite interesting. It means that the first bar would go like this, and then up bow. You might notice that it would work out perfectly by the 4th bar. So the 4th bar, which is a minimal, a ta-ah note, would be the strong down bow at that point. But you also get this contrast between down bows and up bows, or pull bows and push bows, which make it very, very interesting. Different perspectives of how we listen to a piece of music. And those perspectives are being governed by the key that we're playing in. Are we going from G major to the dominant, subdominant? What's happening in the harmony that's telling us the meaning of what we're actually playing? So we go back to the bowing that we've got, this down, up, up bowing. I would actually put my instrument down, and I would start to think about the feel of this. What does it feel like to just have a little bit more depth on that first note and then 2 light bows? And it's good to do this on your own arm, so you can actually feel what your arm's doing, and you can be aware of any tensions in this arm. If this arm is rigid, you know it's tense. You should see the shape of a curve or arc that's being made from the hand through the arm movement. So my arm is quite flexible and free. And you can experiment with that. You can say, right, so let's go deeper into my arm. Let's go less deep. And this is an important concept. when we look at dynamics in a piece of music, very often when we're young, we look at dynamics as a noun. So we say, oh, that says mezzo forte, or that says piano, so that means it's medium loud, or that means it's soft. Well, dynamics in that sense is a volume, and volumes are relative. So it's the wrong way of looking at it. If you look at a dynamic as being dynamic, as the adjective, how can we be dynamic? It's a far more active way of bringing this music or this musical story to life. And we can look at it in the terms of, let's say, an archer. An archer can pull the bow and pull the string, and the arrow goes back like this, and we get a lovely curve on that, the wood of the bow. If they want that arrow to travel a big distance, they make more of a curve on it. If they want it less distance, then they make less of a curve. There are a whole range of different curves that we can put onto the bow. And this is important, because if we were to say, well, I think this is a happy piece, well, that's fine. But actually within that scope of happiness, there's a huge range from mild contentment all the way to ecstasy. And how do we represent that in the sound that we make on the violin? And that is something that has to be sown now. Otherwise, what you get later on in a performance, when a child grows into a teenager, is a really dull, boring performance, because they can only think of one aspect of playing. And that really came home to me once. I was very lucky in a quartet to play with, or to play to, a violist called Eugene Lehner, and we were playing this string quartet, and there was a little bit of a kind of recit-like passage in this Mendelssohn quartet, and so he asked me to play it a couple of times, and he said, right, vary the second time that you play it. So I struggled to do that, and then he said, right, do it again, and I was really struggling by the third time to play it differently. So he picked up my violin, and this was, bear in mind he was in his 80s, he picked up my violin and then played it 10 times differently, and then handed back the instrument and said, do you understand what I'm trying to say here? And I got the message very, very quickly. So it's our imagination that we're trying to stretch, that there is infinite possibility and range in our musical expression. And right from the start, we need to make that obvious to any child, that they can explore things and be curious about sound and develop different sounds, rather than having one single sound and thinking this means I'm soft or this means I'm loud. No, we push boundaries, find the range in sound. So let's find that sound that we want for the first bar, and it goes down, up, up. I put 1 and 3 down. Ready, go. And then in bar 3, I have the similar bowing. So I'm going to do open A, 1-3 block, low 2. Ready, go. Now, in learning that, I would start by just learning the notes. And actually, because it is a bowing issue, I would pluck the strings until I know those notes. It's particularly bar 3. So A, 1-3 block, then low 2. And once I'm confident that that child knows those fingers, then we start to add the bowing. And I would do the bowing without the fingers first, just A. And you could use the red sticker in the middle as a guide, so you've got a whole bow, half, half. It helps, and it gives them a guide as to the sort of shapes that you're trying to make. And they can see that it goes deep, then little arcs that you make. So let's go through this whole piece now. So the first bar is just Mr. 3, and it's down, up, up, go. Then 1 on the A, open 1, 3 over on the D, go. Open A, whole bow, 1-3 block, low 2, go. Then a snail bow on Mr. 1 on the A, going to open A. All the time, if I have a snail bow, actually all the way through this piece, I like to see if the child can actually walk the beat while they play these notes. it's important to make the realization that rhythm and pulse are two completely separate things. They work together, they coexist, and they are important for one another, but they're not necessarily the same. So when I play that snail bow, 1, 2, 3, they have to feel that pulse, and feeling the pulse is real key. Then we get a set of scales. So I've got 1 and 3 down. This, some teachers call it trick fingers, but I just call it a 1-3 block. So the 2's not down yet. So 3 on the A, whole bow. Then low 2, so it's beside Mr. 1, 2, 1, open, 3 goes over on the D. Leave that 3 down, put the 4 down on the A, and push the bow on the A. Then 1 and low 2 together, open. I use a 1-3 block here on the D string, and now the last part says now diddle on D. So high 2, 1 open, high 2, and then 3 for 3 beats. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm retaking my bow. So I said that there are certain features in this piece, and in the 5th bar I'm thinking scales. So the first part has the down, up, up bowing. I get through that. Then the second line starts with scales, starting 3 on the A string. The third line has a leap immediately. You have 1 on the A going to 4 on the A. So 1 on the A, 4. So 1, then 4 on the A. Do that again, go. And then you have a high 2 on the A, 1, 2, open. Then just Mr. 3 on its own on the A string. Open E, 1 on the E, then TT notes, open E, 1-3 block on the A, high 2, 1, open. So there was my little scale passage. And now I have another scale passage which is identical to the second line of the piece, except it's on the E string. So I have 1-3 on the E, low 2 on the E, 1, open, 3 on its own, 4 on its own on the E, 1 and low 2, and now I say play on the A, 2, open, 2, 3. I'm putting 1 and 2 down when I play the 2. So this is 2, open, 2, and 3 with a snail bow. Now I let Mr. 2 jump up and I play 3 again. Then low 2, 1, open, 1 on A, open 1, 3 goes over on the D. Now I've left my 1 down on the A so I can put the 2 right beside it now. Low 2, then 2, 1, open A. And then the last line is the same as the second line entirely. So it's 1 and 3 on the A string. Then the scale goes down, low 2, 1, open, 3 on D, leave it down, put 4 down on the A, 1 and low 2 together, 1, open, 1-3 block on D, high 2, 1, open, high 2, and then 3. So those are the notes that we're trying to play. So I'm going to play through the whole piece once more without the repeats this time. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. So this very much is a movement that brings us down to earth, and it precedes the giga that comes in this suite, which goes back to G minor. The other aspect of it is, when you think about context, have a look at what ladies and gentlemen would have worn in the 17th century, and you can find pictures where you do the colouring in. So use your imagination and imagine what dress or what outfit would you be wearing if you were dancing in the 17th century and this was the minuet you're going to dance to. Have a little look at Louis XIV and how he loved ballet and what his court was all like. This is a dance for the nobility. It's full of grace and charm, and I love it. I just think it's one of the most beautiful pieces. I hope you do as well.